Previously on the Skip and Josh podcast.
If there's a baseball playoff game on, it's like, I gotta be in front of the TV watching it. I can't look away from it.
It's interesting that you say that because yesterday I asked you, are you watching baseball or football? And your answer was both. And my philosophy is if you're watching both, you're watching neither.
The Skip and Josh podcast is on now.
Hello.
Hey, Skip.
What's happening?
Not much. It's a Sunday, so Sunday's a busy day in your household as far as I can guess.
Sunday's pretty busy. The weekends are pretty busy, the kids have places to go, people to see, things to do. Their schedule's much busier than mine,
Well, your schedule's busy too because you got to watch NFL all day.
Usually Sunday is really reserved for watching football, to be honest. I looked over the schedule this week and I was like, these games are so bad, right? Especially because usually our Sunday revolves mostly around the Eagles, and they already played Thursday night, and actually the same thing's going to happen again next week because the Eagles are playing on Monday. So, I wasn't really that interested in any of these games. They seem so blah, but as the Sunday afternoon developed, there was some weird and wacky stuff going on in the NFL today. So.
Well, before we get to Sunday, can we talk about the Thursday game for a bit?
Well, I would love to talk about the Thursday game. It was my favorite game of the whole season so far.
As the listeners know, I didn't watch much of it because I was focused on baseball.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. Yeah.
And I know that you're a big Eagles household, so...
We are, yes.
But there were two things about that game I want to mention. So I happened to flip over to the football game when they were reviewing that Cam Newton touchdown that ended up not being called a touchdown.
Right.
And I was texting you at the time.
Oh, you were on fire in text.
No, but I said to you, if that's a touchdown, the NFL's a joke.
Well, I mean, and when I watched the replay, I was thinking they could call it a touchdown because he was literally flying through the air. Okay. But then Matthew pointed out to me that they don't have the right angle to show the replay where he's actually, yes, he's holding the ball out, right, to get it over the cone, but he's on the other side of the cone, right? He's way on the other side, right?
Okay, but here's my problem. That shouldn't even have been reviewed because the whole rule in the NFL for what is and isn't a touchdown is flawed. Yeah. And I'll explain.
That's not the only rule that's flawed because nobody knows what a catch is, to be honest.
Okay, but here's the thing. One of the criteria for being a touchdown should be that you actually need to be in the end zone with the ball. But clearly that is not a criteria because how many times have you seen...
the rule, that's not it. Yeah.
It's a guy just dives and he touches the orange cone with the football and they call it a touchdown. And he was never in the end zone at any time.
You know what the rule is. The ball needs to cross the plane of the goal line. Means the nib of the football, the point needs to be over the white, touching the white.
They need to change. They need to change the rule. In my opinion, they need to change the rule. Because that play was almost called a touchdown, and there's no way it should have been. It
was shocking. I was fully expecting, actually, for it to be called a touchdown. I really thought it was going to be.
The other problem I have with the touchdown rule, if let's say you're in midair in the end zone, and you catch the ball, so you have full control of the ball, but you're still in midair, but you land out of bounds, that's not a touchdown.
It's not, no.
But it should be, because... if you have control of the ball and you're within the not the cylinder because it's not a circle.
Yeah, no, I understand.
But you're within the four planes of the rectangle.
Yeah. I understand where you're going.
It's a touchdown. It doesn't matter where you land.
Right, because you're saying in some circumstances is if the ball crosses the plane, and in other situations you have to have your feet in bounds. So which one is it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, look, the whole the NFL rule book. One day maybe we could read it. Could be some good bedtime reading, but the rules must be crazy. You know how many rules there are? The NFL, it's all crazy rules. There's all kinds of nonsense there.
The other thing I wanted to point out from that game, and again, this was one of those moments where I flipped over. It was late in the game, and I think it was the last opportunity for Carolina to actually tie up the game. It was, I think, 4th down, and Cam Newton threw an incomplete pass. And the ref called it incomplete, and the Eagles were all happy about it. And number 32 on the Eagles, his last name is Douglas.
Yeah.
He was so excited that he patted the ref on the ass.
It's so funny because he did it. He slapped the ref on the butt. And then I was like, Matthew, did you see that? He just slapped the ref on the butt.
You can't do that.
Then, yeah. And then literally 2 seconds later, you text me. He's like, he slapped the ref on the butt. You can't do that. But he just did. So apparently you can't do that.
Like, he should get fined for that.
No, he was telling him it was a good play. He was a good call.
Still, you can't do that to the ref.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't be making contact with the ref in any circumstances.
Bigger deal out of that thing.
Well, I mean, whatever. I mean, I don't think the ref. What can you say? The Eagles got screwed that whole game. Did you see the number of penalties?
No.
It was like 160 yards or something of penalties for the Eagles and like 2 for the Panthers. Well, and I always say they could be holding on every single play.
Yes.
So to have an entire game without having one holding call on the Panthers the whole game, that's like, it's not normal.
That is not normal. You're right.
Yeah, there was a lot of bad calls that went against the Eagles in that game. A couple like specific ones that if they didn't have, there was one pass interference that was a bonehead play by Jalen Mills, and if he just doesn't interfere, then it's an interception for the Eagles because they actually picked one off and it got called back because it was pass interference. So I don't know. Look, I'm hard on the Eagles because I like them.
But they won the game. They won on the road.
I know. I look at them with a little more critical eye than, let's say, other teams, but they're a good team.
Well, I mean, listen, they played a 4-1 team on the road and they won. What more could you want?
Yeah. Carson Wentz is definitely the real deal. I mean, he still makes some weird mistakes here and there, and he's not great on certain types of throws. Like I said to Matthew, I've never seen a quarterback that actually doesn't know how to throw a screen pass. He can't. He has a cannon of an arm. You see the stats, like 3rd and long, they're like the number 1 team in the league, right?
Yeah.
Because he just sits back there, and when he throws, it's a fastball, right? He can throw the ball 1,000,000 miles an hour on like 3rd and 8, but like 1st and 10, and they're running a little screen to the running back. He can't do it. He overthrows it. He underthrows it. It goes in the ground.
It's like the Chuck Knobloch syndrome.
It might be. He has no touch for those. Anyways, that's my rant about Carson Wentz. But the Eagles are definitely a good team. And the NFC, I mean, the big news today in the NFC is Aaron Rodgers probably out for the season.
So I didn't watch any football today, but I saw on the ticker that Aaron Rodgers could be done for the season.
If you're a Packers fan and you're listening to this, like, I feel really bad for you because, every team goes through injuries. Every team's going to go through injuries during the season. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not like NBA or even NHL or baseball where you could be relatively healthy for a whole year, and not have injuries. NFL, there's injuries. Every week there's injuries.
This year more than ever, and this year not just more than ever, not just a lot of injuries, but a lot like high-profile guys like Odell Beckham Jr. is out.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of others whose names escape me at the moment, but it's ridiculous what's going on this season.
But when you lose your quarterback, and his name's Aaron Rodgers.
And they don't have a backup.
That's a big deal. Mike McCarthy did a press conference today. I watched it, and he put on a brave face saying, we're going with the backup. I don't even know his name.
I was going to say, I don't even know the backup's name. Like, some teams the name of the backup because he actually plays a little bit, but on Green Bay, you don't even know the name of the backup.
Well, the guy's never going to get in the game, but now he is. So all of America and Canada are going to soon know who this guy is, right?
Will the Packers sign Colin Kaepernick?
Well, that's the big thing today. I've been on social media like crazy, and people are saying that if any team would sign Kaepernick, it's most likely the Packers because they don't actually have an owner, right? There's not like one owner. It's a community-owned team, right?
Right.
So the GM, I guess, needs to make that decision, but I don't know. Kaepernick today, he filed a lawsuit against the NFL.
Oh, well, that's not going to help him get signed.
A collusion lawsuit.
That's not going to help him get signed.
No. I think when I saw that, I'm like, well, does he want to get signed or not? Because he's not going to get signed if he's suing them.
He's not. No.
So anyways, back to Rodgers. Look, it sucks. The Packers were a contender, and I say were because they're not a contender anymore if they don't have him.
They were having a good season. It's a shame.
There's some teams that rely on a great defense or a great running game, and the quarterback doesn't have to do as much. That's not the Packers. He has to do everything.
For sure.
He has to do everything.
Yeah.
So,
and they actually had a few injuries even before his injury. They had a few.
But there was some crazy games today in the NFL.
I'm looking at the scores again. I didn't watch anything. I see New Orleans had 52 points against Detroit. That's the over-under, no one would have picked 80-something or 90 points.
It was a game that was lasting. I think it finished at, they usually finish at 4. I think it finished at 4:45 or close to 5 o'clock.
I believe
it was going on forever.
Well, there's 90 points scored in that game. I can't remember
but
the last time there were 90 points.
You know why it goes on forever? It's not just 90 points. It's because the Saints, you figure they have a lead, right? They're just going to run out the clock? No. The Saints, when they have a lead, they throw.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Because they don't have a running back. Do they even have one?
So they just keep throwing. So the clock doesn't get to wind down, it's kind of sucks, but it's the way it is. Yeah, and I mean, the game that I was watching, I tuned in at one point because it was interesting, was the Jets-Patriots, because it looked like the Jets were going to pull off an upset. And actually they should have, because they got screwed out of a touchdown that, again, on a crazy replay, where I looked at the replay and I said, that's a touchdown, and apparently the replay official disagreed. So sucks for the Jets, because they want to win that game. You know how badly they want it, right?
Of course. And they were tied for first in the division before that.
Yeah. Well, look, the Patriots are still in command, but they look bad. Honestly, I was thinking about you today, because on our NFL preview show, you told me, you said it might not happen today, it might not happen tomorrow, it might happen next year, it might happen the year after, but at one point Tom Brady's not going to be good anymore. Mm-hmm. And we might be there.
But yet the Patriots won, and they covered.
They won, but and they covered as usual.
Did they cover? I think they did.
I don't know. Weren't they favored by? I don't think they did. I think the Jets Patriots were favored by 9 or something, weren't they?
Okay.
Or more than 7, or at least 7.5, right?
So then they didn't cover.
Yeah, and I mean some other the Steelers, who seemed like they were dead in the water, looking horrible, came out and beat the Chiefs. So again, no one knows anything about anything. And the Chargers got a win today against the Raiders. They hit a field goal the last second. Imagine if they didn't have that garbage kicker the first 2 weeks, they would have had 3 wins already, Did
Derek Carr play for Oakland?
He did, but he played poorly.
By the way, I think it's safe to say now that the LA Rams are for real.
The LA Rams, they are. And it's funny because...
every week they win, and every week I say this isn't going to last, but yet every week they keep winning.
And the Jaguars are no joke. I mean, look, the Jaguars are not a great team, but they're not a bad team.
Right.
And the Jaguars have a really, really good defense. So the Rams are legit. I feel kind of bad for Jared Goff, because everyone was trashing him last year.
Yeah, well, and it's really Fisher wouldn't let him play.
100%. The coach just had him in shackles, right?
And here they go all the way across the country to Florida, and they win.
To Florida, yeah, it's true. So, I mean, that's what's happening in the NFL. This was the week in the NFL that kind of showed everybody, anybody who thinks they actually know what's going on in the NFL, you're kidding yourself.
Well, there were 2 other surprising games, first of all. Miami won a game, which I don't understand how they win any games.
Huge. Jay Cutler, somehow, every now and then, he gets so much criticism, honestly.
And he deserves it. I mean, do you see him on the field? He looks like he doesn't even want to be there.
But that's just his body language. I don't think he really feels that. Do you?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on in his head, but he looks like he doesn't want to be there.
That's his personality. Doesn't mean he doesn't care, just he doesn't show it, So look, the thing with Jay Cutler is he gets such a bad rap, but there's probably 10 worse quarterbacks than him in the league right now.
Maybe. His numbers are pretty bad. So I mean, I don't know what he did today, but his numbers were pretty bad going into today.
You know that Twitter account, Not SportsCenter?
Yes, you've told me about it.
So they tweeted today that the Packers are going to trade for Jay Cutler because he's so familiar at throwing to Packers receivers. I thought it was amusing. No?
That is amusing. Yeah. And meanwhile, the Bears somehow won a game, and they beat Baltimore, who I thought was a good team.
And Baltimore was at home. And I told you, I read this article that showed the true home field advantage. And when you look at the last 10 or 15 years, there's the one team that has the biggest home field advantage is Baltimore. They have the best home record. Yeah. And the Bears somehow pulled it off today with smoke and mirrors again. Although finally they're playing Trubisky, their first round draft pick. So at least there's some hope, right? For the future.
Meanwhile, I have to agree with Wilbon here.
Yeah.
That he couldn't believe what the Bears gave up to get Trubisky.
Well, it was too much.
And not only that, they could have just stayed at the draft position that they were at. and got
probably taken
Deshaun
him.
Watson.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, that's why they're scouts, right? Because some people look at Trubisky and say he's the best one, and some people look at Deshaun Watson and say we don't like him or we do like him. Some people liked Mahomes, the guy that Kansas City drafted, right? Like, and the one scout out of 500 scouts of the whole NFL who works for the Browns thought Deshaun Kaiser was better than all of them.
Right. So this
Right?
tells me what I've been trying to tell people for years, that the draft is a crapshoot.
It is, but I think the first round anybody could draft because everybody knows these guys.
No, but not even because of the 3 quarterbacks that went in the first round, the best one went like
lowest.
12th.
I know, but you see, if it was up to me, I would have picked him first because I love that guy.
Okay.
But I'm not a scout. I'm just a fan.
Well,
right?
maybe you should be. Maybe you need a new job because you get paid a lot more if you had that job.
The thing is, I told you this before. The way it's not, other positions is different. Running backs, receivers, linemen is a whole other story. They're just looking at girth, for these guys.
Yeah.
But running backs and receivers and DBs, whatever, they look at like their running time, the 40, how do the 40-yard dash, weight, strength, and they look at physical things, right? And the problem is they do the same thing for the quarterbacks. It's been like this forever. I think half the scouts in the NFL don't understand what it is that makes a quarterback good. It's not how hard he could throw the ball. It's not how fast he can run. It's not that he's 6'5". Yeah, all these things are good. All these things are important.
Well, Drew Brees isn't tall, and he's a good quarterback.
It's all decision making. Everything about being a quarterback in the NFL is how quick can you make a decision when you have 4 300-pound guys trying to kill you, right? And what do you do when they're breathing down your neck and they're about to kill you like they killed Aaron Rodgers today? That's what makes a quarterback in the NFL. And all you had to do was watch Deshaun Watson. Alabama had the best defense 2 years in a row. They still have the best defense. People think Alabama's defense is better than some NFL defenses.
Yeah.
Right? And he took them to the championship game twice. He torched them both games. They didn't win. The first one they didn't win. Mm-hmm. There's only so much he can do. And the second one he did win.
As Giselle Bundchen would say, he can only throw the ball. He can't catch it and play defense.
100%. So for him to take Clemson to the national championship and destroy Alabama's defense twice, I mean, I think people should take notice, no? Anyways, that's football.
Hi there, Skip and Josh will be right back. To get in touch with them, you can send them an email to skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. You can follow them on Twitter @skipandjosh, and you can visit their website at www.skipandjosh.com. And now, back to the show.
So, as people know, I'm in Montreal, you're in Toronto. And while last episode we talked about baseball, and we just talked about football, what everybody else in our cities are talking about is hockey. And I don't know, like, how much hockey have you watched? Did you watch that Habs Leafs game last night? And
so I've watched virtually no hockey all season.
Okay.
And I didn't.
So you're in position to talk about it, right?
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect.
But I will say a few things. I have some questions for you. First
okay,
of all,
I'm ready to answer them.
First of all, I didn't even know until yesterday that the Canadiens had beaten the Leafs 14 consecutive times. Is that true?
15, I think. No.
I mean, I thought for sure...
Oh, no, that was the first time in 15 games. Yeah, I knew it because I heard the people talking about it 14 times in a row.
I thought for sure the Leafs beat the Canadiens at least once every season since
Well, there was a lot of close games in that 14 games, right?
So I was stunned when I heard that stat.
Yeah.
I was stunned when I heard that stat.
I mean, I'm sure in Toronto they're ready to, like, they're probably throwing the Stanley Cup parade already, right? They're drawing up the route.
I was at a friend's house last week, even before yesterday's win.
Yeah,
and
he had a big poster in his house with the route of the parade and everything.
Well, yeah, I said, so, I showed up late to the party, and I said, so are you guys going to map out the parade route? He's like, oh, we already did that an hour ago.
So, and of course, Austin Matthews has already won the Conn Smythe, the Hart Trophy, everything, right?
The way Austin Matthews played yesterday against the Canadiens, if he keeps doing that, he will win the Hart. I didn't see... Okay, so I only saw the highlights and I only saw the goals. But I have to say that on the plays that I saw, Price did not look very good.
No. Price, look, the Canadiens outplayed the Leafs yesterday. Not by a wide margin, but they outplayed them. And the game went to overtime, so it's really like anybody's game, right? I mean, it's not like there was a clear winner. And after the game, in the interview, Price said this was the best game our team's played this year, and it's the worst game I've played this year. And he took the responsibility, as he should. He makes $10 million a year. He has to do better than that, right?
I'm glad he took the blame. I heard that interview, and I'm glad at least he did that.
Yeah, on a couple of goals, he really looked awful.
Yeah,
really looked awful.
Well,
out of position.
The one that Patrick Marleau scored, where there was a scramble. Like, first he made the save, and then he didn't know where the puck was.
Yeah.
And then there was a scramble, and it went in. Like, how do you not cover the puck up? I mean, you're an NHL goalie.
The other two goals, both goals that Matthews scored, look. Matthews burst on the scene last year, and as a Habs fan, I was like, ugh, this guy, whatever. I'm sure, he'll be good, but I'm not taking notice of him, right? But after yesterday... Like, even for like a diehard Habs fan and someone who really doesn't want to give the Leafs any credit at all, like, you can't ignore this guy. He is one of the top 5 players in the league. You can't you can't deny it. Like he
might have
a
the
game
best
breaker.
hands of anyone in the league. Like, he's very smooth.
It's not just his hands. It's like I think McDavid obviously is a better skater, right? And Crosby might still be a better total package, two-way player overall, right? Ovechkin might be a better sniper.
Matthews isn't 20 years old yet. I just want to remind you.
Yeah, but there's something about him that's like this combination of these quick hands. He's very powerful. Like, you don't realize how strong he is, and his shot is unreal. Like,
it is.
He first of all, okay, so the overtime starts, right? Mm-hmm. And they put on Nylander and Matthews.
I would have done the same.
As they should. So the more things change, the more things stay the same in Montreal. Because we have a new coach, but he has the same stupid, strategies. Okay, let's put out Plekanec and Byron, right? So already he's not playing to win. He's playing to lose. He's playing defensive, right? And he defended it, and people online, I read the reasons why. Plekanec had been shadowing Matthews all game, and more or less did a decent job on him. Yes, he scored that one goal early on, but that was on a weird line change where Plekanec wasn't on, and the rest of the game, Plekanec did a really good job against him. But the thing is, that's 5-on-5. This is 3-on-3, right?
Yeah, it's an advantage to a guy like Matthews.
Yeah, 3-on-3 is you take your chance, and you better score, because... if you don't score, the other team's coming the other way, and they're going to take their chance. Yeah. It's trading 2-on-1s, right? So who do you want having a 2-on-1 in the first minute of overtime? Plekanec and Byron, or Drouin and Pacioretty, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that, he played so conservative, and like, as soon as Plekanec and Byron came down on a partial 2-on-1 and they didn't score, I was like, it's over. Because they're going to come right back down on their own 2-on-1, and that it's like when Matthew scored, I wasn't surprised at all. It was almost, I expected it, Anyways, look, the Canadians are in deep trouble.
How's the Mark Streit experiment working out?
They released him.
I know. That's why I asked you. How bad does that make the team look? They signed this guy in the offseason. He lasts 2 games and then they cut him?
I told you, Mark from Philadelphia, our Philly correspondent.
Friend of the show, Mark.
I had drinks with him in like February, March last year. He was in Montreal, and we watched a Flyers game, and he was like, I wish someone would take Mark Streit off our hands. He couldn't believe that Mark Streit was on their team because they're loaded with defensive prospects, and yet they're using this corpse as on the blue line.
Mark Streit won a Stanley Cup with the Penguins last year, by the way.
Oh my God! Yeah,
I know
he
hardly
played.
He hardly played, but yes, he technically has his name on the Stanley Cup.
So the next guy that they're going to release is what I told you is going to be Hemsky. Hemsky's not going to last. That was
also a waste of a signing.
Yeah, they don't need him. They have guys. I'd rather give a younger guy a chance than have this guy.
So basically what you're telling me is that pretty much every offseason signing was a waste.
No, Carl Alsner looks okay. Drouin looks good.
Well, that was a trade. That wasn't a signing, so.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Look, they're the same team as last year. They're different. There's different people in different positions, but it's still the same offensively challenged team, the same team that has trouble in their own zone. They have no transition game. And they need the goalie to have a .920 save percentage, and then they can win. A lot of times he does have the .920 save percentage, so they do win, right?
I think his save percentage is right now at 899, if I'm not mistaken, which is
it's one of the worst in the league.
It's bad.
It's
It's
under
bad.
900. You know, after the first game of the season, I got into a little argument online with a Habs fan.
okay.
Someone who's friend of a friend, you know, on Facebook, but I don't know the guy, and he was all excited about, you know, they won the first game, and like, oh, he was all excited about like the way the team looked and everything, and I was like, honestly, the same, you know, there's nothing new here. It's the strategy is Carey Price. And he wrote back to me saying, I disagree with you completely. What about this? What about this? And he pointed out all the things that Julien was doing, how good the power play looked, how he was using all these young players instead of relying on veterans. But like now we're just back into the same trap as we always have been, right? Like the power play, they scored their first power play goal yesterday. It was 0 for 14 before that, right? Or 0 for 15. So like tell me how the great power play is working, right? Like everyone was all excited about it. And yes, he's giving young guys a chance. Like there's no way Therrien would have ever put Victor Mete in the lineup. He would have been back in junior. And he's using other young players and giving them a little bit of a chance. But in the end, it's still the same system. The system is the goalie, right?
That one win, by the way, that person you were chatting with was referring to was against Buffalo.
Yeah, it was the first game of the year.
Yeah. And Buffalo is in last place in the conference. Just so
yeah, I mean Buffalo is a team that's
beating Buffalo doesn't mean anything.
A lot of offense. They've got a lot of offense, but they have no idea how to play in their own zone, and they have a crazy inconsistent goalie. So they're not a difficult team to play against. You know, they're
and
exactly
Canadians
our
were
style.
lucky to win that game in overtime or shootout or something.
And they're still looking for. Look, whatever. I can go on and on and on about the Canadians. The season's not lost. They can right the ship. Price can start playing better. Like I said, the whole thing revolves around one guy, right?
Yeah.
And one guy who has a tremendous track record of playing really well.
Yeah. I'm not panicking, but I still don't have.
No,
I know. For the Canadians.
I know. In Montreal, people are panicking.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna fire this coach? Who are you gonna get?
Well, that's the whole thing. That's why I kind of love the drama of what's going on here. Because
it's not the coach's fault. It's really not. Like, what does he have to work with?
At first, it was Desharnais' fault, right?
According to you.
Yeah. Well, this is a few years ago. This is not according to me. I'm talking about the overall fan.
The collective.
Yeah, the collective. You know, it was Desharnais' fault. Even the mayor tweeted about Desharnais, right? At one point. Anyway, so Desharnais, it was Desharnais' fault, and then they got rid of Desharnais, and then it was the coach's fault, right?
Well, they got rid of Therrien before they got rid of Desharnais.
Yeah, well, I mean, but like one guy and then the other. Now those guys are gone, right? So now it's Galchenyuk's fault. Now it's Galchenyuk's fault. You could already see it, right? It's all his fault. It's terrible. He's so bad, and it's all his fault, right? Terrible. He's such a bad player. So, I mean, they're going to run him out of town. We're going to trade Galchenyuk for a third-round pick.
And he's going to go on to have an excellent career.
He will. I guarantee you, we're going to get rid of this guy, and we're going to get nothing for him. And he was the third overall pick in the draft.
Yeah, they should never trade him. I feel bad for him. I don't know why he gets such a bad rap. I don't know why he's like put on the third or fourth line. Okay, if he's not a center, fine. He's not a center, but he shouldn't be on the third or fourth line. It's ridiculous.
He scored last night. I mean, you know, he's one of the, for a team that can't score, right? You'd figure you need guys that have scoring ability. He's one of them. He's the only guy. Him and Pacioretty are the only guys on the team that know how to shoot. Honestly, right? Drouin is a playmaker. He's not going to score a ton of goals. Galchenyuk can fill the net, right? And I don't know. They're going to run him out of town. We're going to get nothing for him, and everyone's going to say, well, and then after they get rid of him, it's going to say, oh, he had a bad attitude. He was a distraction in the dressing room. All the stories are going to come out to justify the trade, and then 6 months later, everyone's going to realize what a stupid move it was.
Yeah. Well, I hope it doesn't happen.
That's the standard operating procedure in this city.
The thing is, I think Claude Julien's job is safe until the Rangers fire Alain Vigneault.
That's such a great thing. Honestly, that is like one of the best things you've ever said, because it's so true, right? We can only hire those French Canadian coaches, and the only ones that are in the league right now are ones that were already our coach.
Meanwhile, in Toronto, the Leafs have like the second best record in the entire NHL.
Yeah.
Only behind the Chicago Blackhawks.
Right.
So, of course, everyone here is very excited, as they should be. And I didn't have any faith at all going into yesterday's game.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that it was actually a 1-goal game. I thought the Canadiens would lose by more than that.
Well, I mean, I think everybody here was expecting the Leafs to kill them, but I mean, the Canadiens are proud. Like, came out and they played hard, you know? They just fell a little bit short, you know? And there's no shame in losing in overtime, you know? That's what it is, right?
Yeah,
but
I suppose.
I was impressed with the guys on Hockey Night in Canada, because they're usually such homers towards the Leafs.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I think it was Kelly Rudy that said, yeah, they have a great record and they're doing really well. But until they figure out how to like play some defense, play a little bit better in their own zone, a little bit more of a two-way game, he said no one in the Eastern Conference is going to take them seriously because they've given up like a lot of goals, right?
They have, but they score so many.
They score so many, but that's not gonna. I don't know if they can keep that up. Right now, the scoring's up because the power plays are up. That's the only thing I want. It's funny. Okay, timeout.
Well, this leads, I have some questions for you. I haven't asked you any of my questions.
Yeah, well, when we said we were going to talk about hockey, I said there's only one thing I really wanted to talk about. Like, what do you think about all the penalties this year so far?
Well, one of my questions to you was going to be, can you explain to me the new face-off rule, first of all?
I don't understand it at all.
Okay.
I just know that there's all kinds of weird penalties being called on face-offs.
Okay. My other question to you was going to be, is it true that if you challenge a play and you're wrong, you get a penalty?
Not a goal. Not a goal. Like, you can challenge if a goal went in or out, or maybe that happens automatically. Mm-hmm. It happened in the Flyers Nashville game. Mark texted me because he was watching the game. Okay. Mm-hmm. Flyers are winning. Flyers are winning 5-3. Okay. Nashville scores. They make it 5-4. Okay. Now the pressure's on. They're putting all kinds of pressure. They score to make it 5-5. The Flyers challenge that the play was offside.
Oh, I think I saw this actually. Keep going.
They go and review it. They find out it was onside. The goal counts, and the Flyers get a penalty for challenging the play and getting it wrong.
So, is it every penalty that you or every play that you challenge?
It's the
or
offsides.
Is it only offsides?
It's the offsides because. And then, so what ended up happening in that game, the Nashville scored on that power play to make it 6-5. So, like, it was a 2-goal swing on the one review.
This, if you recall, with the Toronto game last week, not yesterday, but the Toronto game last week, where they won like 6-4 or 7-5 or something. I don't even remember who they were playing.
Right.
The same thing happened where there was an offside, or so they thought.
Yeah.
And someone challenged the play, and turns out it wasn't offside, so now they were shorthanded. So there was also a 2-goal swing in that game.
Right. They had to do something because they allowed the coaches to challenge offsides, right? Mm-hmm. So what was happening last year is anytime there's a goal, let's challenge.
Right.
Challenge.
Even if there was no chance of an offside.
Even if there's no chance.
Because you really had nothing to lose.
It's like, okay, let's just play the lottery, right? Mm-hmm. So it just slows everything down and makes it ridiculous. So they needed to kind of police this challenging offsides a little bit. I do agree with it because you need to
that's fine. I'm cool.
You know, in the NFL they take away a timeout, but the timeouts in the NHL are useless. They don't care about that.
Well, there's only one per game.
Yeah, and they don't care about losing it if they had to, you know, because it's like, who cares, right?
The other thing I noticed is now when you like sort of tap on a guy's arm or hand, or you get a slashing penalty.
So they showed the stat yesterday, which I was so happy that they showed it. They showed the penalties this year, what was called. So holding, hooking, tripping, interference, like the standard penalties, like all the main standard penalties. They all were like, how many have been called this year? They were all like between 40 and 60, like 49 and 60. So there was like 49 interferences, 51 trippings, 53 holdings, whatever they are, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then slashing, 160. Okay? So, yes, thank you, NHL. You're trying to crack down. I mean, anybody that listened to our podcast during the NHL playoffs knows how infuriated I was that there's no calls, right? But so now they've gone the opposite. They're calling a guy could get killed on the boards, literally killed. And you know how you spell that? Kilt, killed on the boards. and there was no call, and then you get two seconds later, someone taps someone on the shoulder with their stick, 2 minutes for slashing. And it doesn't make sense.
And will they maintain this level of scrutiny when the playoffs start?
Yeah, that when the playoffs starts, there's no way they're going to maintain this in the next month. You know, as each month goes by in the NHL season, the amount of penalties that they're going to call are going to go down. And by the time we get to the playoffs, we're going to be in the same thing as last year. There's not going to be any slashings in the playoffs. None.
Right.
It's what it's going to be.
I call this the Sidney Crosby, Mark Mathot rule.
Yeah. They put this in so that no one will lose a finger.
Yeah.
Right?
Which, you know,
but also
nice
it's an artificial way to get the goal scoring up, because 5-on-5 and everything else in the league is the same. But goal scoring's way up because teams are scoring like crazy on the power play.
And maybe the NHL wanted goal scoring to go up. Maybe that's
I'm sure
why
they
did
did. It's their way of doing it, right? But the thing is, now we're going to have a totally different game. The regular season is going to be this high-flying skating game, and the playoffs are going to be like, how it always is, clutching and grabbing and impossible to score, right?
Yeah.
They need to find the middle. I guess what they're hoping is that the players are going to train themselves to like not slash anymore, right?
We'll see.
But when the playoffs start, that's out the window, right?
If they maintain this level of scrutiny up until the All-Star break, then maybe players will train themselves.
Maybe, I guess, yeah.
Who knows?
I highly doubt it.
I'm
not holding my breath on that. So remember, you can listen and subscribe to new and archived episodes of the Skip and Josh podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, or the podcast app of your choice. For example, I use an app called Overcast. And if you listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. We would love to hear from you via email, skipandjoshshow@gmail.com, via Twitter @skipandjosh, or by liking and following our Facebook page. And as always, you can get all the links that I just mentioned on our website, skipandjosh.com. And also, you can see the countdown to the 1-year anniversary of the podcast. I believe it's 20 days. It's pretty crazy. Speak to you next time.
Okay, awesome.
The Skip and Josh podcast is over now. Don't worry, there'll be another episode soon.